Hey guys, welcome to Blooming. Ooh, I gotta wash my tongue today. Blooming in a Cage, a podcast for humans. I'm your host, Robin Stiers, coming to you from Southern Vermont in the Spare Room Studios. I'm so glad you guys are with me tonight. What a kind of dreary day. It was raining earlier. I took my husband some supper and went up to the grocery store and it was like, ew, I'm not happy about it. And I'm also not happy because this is what happened in New England in the fall. You have all these beautiful leaves and then it rains and it knocks all the leaves down. And I'm headed up north this weekend and I kind of was excited to see all the leaves changing as I go up north. We've got some really pretty colors. I think I'm kind of a snob when it comes to leaves changing here in New England. And if you're not here, I'm sorry because you're missing out on it. Um, it's like I don't really like the yellows. Like I want the best colors. Like I live here, I want the best, and I'm always kind of disappointed. But this year we have a lot of oranges and reds, which is my favorite. So if you're looking for a good road trip, come on up and check it out. We're going to talk about an event that's actually happening this weekend in New England where you can come up and see all the beautiful foliage, get some apples and apple cider donuts. I had one this afternoon. Apple cider donuts are the reason to come to New England in the fall. I'm being serious. And hot apple cider and cozy up and listen to some good music. That's with our guest tonight that we're going to talk about One King Worship. But before I bring them on, I want to talk about a couple guests that I have coming up the rest of this month. My friends Levy and Nicole Bendicoat from up north. Levy works for Light Radio, but that's actually not why I'm having him come on. I'm having him come on so him and his wife can talk about how they came to New England, all the courses of how God called them here, why they're here, a little bit about Light Radio and what he's doing there. But a tremendous story of some stuff that they're walking through right now and the reason why God kind of called them to New England. So I'm excited to have them. I got to know Levy this summer. I get to host one of his sons at our summer camp, and I've gotten to know them, and I just really love their heart. And it should be a fun time. And then the end of this month, I have my friend Valerie Rodriguez, who is from the Rhode Island Providence. I think it's actually Pawtucket, I think is where she lives. It's kind of more toward the coast than Providence. And she's on. And boy, I cannot wait for you guys to meet Valerie. Gosh, I think I met Valerie 2 years ago when she came here to Brattleboro with evangelist Tommy Zito. And I just fell in love with her. And then I get to spend a week, almost a whole week with her this July up in White River. And again, I just really fell in love with her and her heart for the gospel and for the lost. And she has a tremendous testimony of healing and how God healed her physical body. And I just would love for you guys to get to know Valerie and to hear the testimony of her healing. And not only that, to be energized and have the gift of evangelism stirred up into you, because New England needs Jesus. And then we're also working on another event that's going to probably happen in February. I can't believe we're already talking about stuff that's going to happen after the first of the year, but man alive. But before we do anything else, I just want to say, please be praying for those people that are in the path of that hurricane. I have so many friends that are in the North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, even family in some of those areas, and friends that are down there in the coast, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, and Tampa, and those areas that are really being just absolutely nailed, in Orlando even. So just remember them and praying for them. So many of them are still in recovery from this first storm, and now another one just slamming right on them. Just pray for them. Pray for God, divine intervention, that this storm will die down, that we know that the word of God reminds us that Jesus stepped out in the boat and with a word, he calmed the sea, and we know that he can do that. But I also want to ask for prayer for my friend Sarah. Sarah Tanner had brain surgery today to remove a tumor in her brain. The doctor said that all of the tumor is removed and she has done well, but she has some side effects that they're concerned about. And I'm just going to pray that that tumor would be completely gone, that it would stay gone, and she would have no ill side effects. So I would love it if you guys could pray for Sarah. If you're here in the chat and you're lurking, as some do, please pop over and let us know that you're here, that you're in the chat, that you're with us. Tell me what you got for snack. I am nursing a Diet Coke from McDonald's. Don't tell my kids, because we have been on a no spend out to eat, but I decided that Diet Cokes are free because they weren't free. They were like $2, but free in the no going out to eat because mama here has been on steroids. I had some gel injections last Friday and I do not do well with them. I have a reaction. So to try to combat that reaction, I got put on steroids. And let me just say, you should pray for my family because I'm going to be on steroids for a month and I turn into a different person when I'm on steroids. So I'm kind of nursing a headache tonight, but I'm super excited to chit chat and I'm just going to chit chat with them and relax and sip on my Diet Coke maybe tonight. And I'm so glad that you guys are here with me. I'm going to go ahead and get to the right place on my bar. I'm trying to get into the pictures and bring in Scott and Gina. Hi, Scott and Gina. How are you?
You guys, how are you? Thank you so much for having us. What a blessing and honor it is to be here with you. Thank you so much for having us.
No problem. I'm hoping a few people are going to hop in the chat. You always see, I can
Yeah.
see who's watching me, but they're
Mhm.
lurking. They must be still yelling at their kids to get in bed. And they're like, shut up, get into
Yeah.
bed. I remember those days where you're like, shut up and get in bed. My
Yeah.
kid was just yelling up at me and saying, we're leaving, mom. I'm like, okay, good.
Yeah.
Get out of here. It's a different stage in life. So you guys are actually, you have another name, right? One King Worship.
That's right.
That's another name you're known
Yep.
by.
Mhm.
So tell me a little bit about what One King Worship and why should we be talking to you tonight? Who is that? Who is
Okay,
this
One King
person Robin
Worship.
put on?
Yeah. So we are first of all, we're ministry first, right? And One King Worship, in the name, we worship one King, and that's Jesus Christ. We serve Him and His kingdom and His people first and foremost. That's what we do. We worship Him. We love Him for who He is, what He's done on the cross, and He's risen. He's alive in our lives, and the things that He's doing for us in our family and what He's done in my life is absolutely amazing. And this ministry is set out to serve the lost, the hopeless, the suffering, the addicted. Out there on the streets, lost like myself, I was just a mess. Uh, 20 years of my life I spent out there just struggling on my own, um, really, really looking for something different and failed every single time, struggling with 20 years of addiction, drug and alcohol addiction, man. And, I thought I knew everything kind of situation, and
Yeah.
thought I could fix myself in many different ways and failed every single time. And, you know,
Sadly, a story, Scott, that's very familiar to a lot of people,
yeah,
particularly in New England, and I know other
mhm,
places in the United States, but like I see it so much
mhm.
and what I do that I know exactly what you're talking about. So where are you guys? Where's your base home?
We're in Stoddard, New Hampshire.
You're in Stoddard.
Yeah.
So you're just over the river from me, just over
Yeah.
the, just as hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah.
Has music always been a part of your life?
It always been a part of my life. So I've grown up in a family that has always been involved in music from in one way or the other. My father is a country musician, slide pedal steel player, lead guitar player. My uncle was a drummer. My grandmother, my father's mother, was old jazz drummer and piano player, and loved to sing growing up. I mean, I've been around music. It's been in my family. It's in my DNA. I've been around it my whole life. And as I grew up watching my father and my uncle and family in music, I just fell in love with it and wanted to be a part of it. And I naturally fell into singing and music. It just on its own. And as I got older and started getting better at it and getting into the scene of music, getting into playing out, we'll call it. The things that came along with playing out, the habits that followed, it became more about that for me and the acceptance. We moved around a lot as I was when I was a kid. Traveled. I lived in Florida for a while. My sister was born there, and yes, definitely pray for them. My
Yeah.
mother, my father, my sister, and my little niece Lydia, they're down there in the
Mhm.
Clearwater area in Florida right now.
Wow.
If you guys are listening, we love you, and we're praying for you guys. And Lord's going to keep you safe. We know that. We're trusting in faith, and we're declaring that right now. And
Yeah.
my dad's still playing music. But as I grew up and got into music and developed the habits that I had, I just the lifestyle choices I made and the acceptance that I got from people and my peers that, they liked what I was doing, it became about the lifestyle,
Yeah.
not about the music. Because moving around a lot, like I was explaining, it was I didn't have many friends and I wasn't accepted.
I
Uh,
kind of relate
yeah.
to that. I mean, I did somebody asked, I was at my parents had a choir. That's actually they were in a
Mhm,
choir and that's actually how they met, and then they had a choir of their own after they moved here to New England Southern Gospel Choir.
mhm.
And somebody said, "When was the first time you sang?" And I was like, a toddler." Like literally, my mom had, if you can imagine, my brother and I had matching gingham outfits. He had a gingham suit, polyester suit, and I had a little,
Love
and
it.
we sang the old hymn, "Stepping on the Clouds." But how about you, Gina? Were you always into music, or was this a
I
husband?
wasn't any more than just, I did the choir in school.
Yeah.
I sang a lot in the car. My children will tell you that I was loud and obnoxious and they absolutely hated it. But other than that, I was a school bus driver as I raised my children, and I ended up finding out that a bunch of them used to go to karaoke once a month.
Right.
And I was invited out once, and it was the end of the night, and somebody put my name in, and I was like, that's not happening. And I got
You're like, I sing
I
in the
and
shower, not for anybody
they
else.
dragged me up there, and I became addicted to karaoke, and that's actually how we met, was at
Oh,
karaoke.
that's great.
And
It's
it
funny
wasn't
because
until
I've never done karaoke. My husband sings. Neither of us have ever done karaoke.
well, now you see where it could lead you.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess it could be
You never
dangerous
know.
things. Yeah,
Right.
no, but I get the like moving around. That can be hard. We didn't
Mhm,
settle here until. Oh, my mom's probably going to correct me. I have to say hi. My brother Andrew's here. We're praying for you, Andy. He's down in Savannah, Georgia. My crazy parents
mhm,
went down there, and the love of my life. My husband
mhm.
here is in the chat. But I moved around a lot, and I think we settled here in like 83 or something like that. And prior to that, I didn't have a home or family or anybody like roots, and that can really be unsettling
Mm,
to not have roots to stick your feet in,
mhm,
to kind of be transient. And I can see how being transient leads into addiction. It's those, sometimes, so often those things
mhm.
go hand in hand. Was that true for you?
Yeah, very much so, and, it just, falling into place with these people, it didn't matter. I wasn't gonna tell them no, because I didn't wanna be outcast either, you know what I mean? I
Right,
just got to
right.
hang out and be part of the crowd, the after parties and everything, um, and anytime there was another band playing somewhere, they'd always invite me up to sing along with them and play with it. It didn't matter. So, again, being part of that scene, but after a while, it just started to fall away, and I started to chase after that drug, that addiction. That
Yeah.
it was a mess. I mean, I lost everything, relationships, my children, everything just went away. And eventually, being bouncing from job to job, couch to couch, parents' house to another friend's house. It didn't matter. It was a continued struggle that just was a continued lie that I believed that I had become this person that was just going to die this way. And I said, somebody's got to be the bad guy. And I guess those were the cards that I was dealt.
Yeah.
And that's just who I'm gonna be. And that's it. But
So many people that way, what you're describing is living without hope.
mhm,
And if you don't have hope, then there you are hopeless. There's no reason to get up. And I think that what I see, because I run our food pantry at our church, and we're, right on Canal Street in Brattleboro. It's
yep,
drug central. There's
yep,
no other way to put it.
mhm,
And it's, you see these people and they're just in this cycle of the mundane, like I call them zombies, because it's like they don't have any reason to live.
Mhm.
And it's
mhm,
like, why am I gonna, I was talking with somebody this week about a young lady that I think I met her. I won't name her, but I think I met her when she was probably just in the kindergarten. And she, came out of a home that had a cycle of addiction and abuse, and she's now living that same cycle and passing it on to her children. She doesn't know, there's no hope of life being different.
Mhm.
right, yep. And that continued struggle, that lie that I believed, I was just so weak that the enemy just didn't have to do much at that point. He just left me there, and I was completely defeated. However, there was a point in my life where God is always watching. He's always moving in your life. He's there continually, whether you see him or not. He's seeking you out because Jesus wants to have a relationship with you. He wants to be in your life. He wants to restore you. He wants to redeem you, and he wants to give you purpose. He wants you to live for him, and he wants to have a relationship with you. And I knew nothing about that, but it didn't matter. He still was putting people in my life that wanted to save me. And I met my wife. I met Gina. And long story short, we started to see each other, and she brought me to church where her family goes. And I started to hear about who Jesus is. And they started to talk about peace and freedom and victory and words I didn't know anything about. I mean, no, we're not talking about, temporary peace and temporary victory and temporary freedom. We're talking about life-changing freedom and peace and victory. And that's when the Holy Ghost just started to work in me. The Holy Spirit just started to change and soften my heart. And I gave my life to Jesus. And that changed everything for me. From that moment on, it changed everything because I belonged to him from that point on. I still had struggles I had to work through. I still had addiction in 20 years of a lifestyle.
Right.
20 years of a lifestyle that he had to take apart and turn around. But that's where his word comes into play, right? And the people that he's put into your life that come into play, then that's where I had to go to a place where I had to surrender myself to authority. See, that's very important in any Christian's life. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be about addiction. Jesus died for you anyway, regardless of your issues that you have. We're all sinners in need of a savior. All of us, doesn't matter. Okay. I went into the Teen Challenge and I surrendered to that authority. When you give your life to Jesus and you surrender to the authority that he's placed into your life, it will change you forever.
I think one thing that you said is key is like when you were talking about, learning about who Jesus is. I think that that's such a misconception that that the enemy tells us that my brother has said this over the last few years, and I've kind of stuck on it with Carrie Job's song, The Blessing, is that God is for you. He's not against you.
That's right.
And the problem that people get when they're in this cycle of hopelessness, they haven't met the man Hope, right? They haven't met Hope yet.
Nope.
So, because hope is a man, it's not a feeling. And apart from him, there is no hope. And I think that that's the problem. And I was actually talking to somebody today. I'm just going to say hi to my daddy. He's in Savannah with my brother Andy.
Pastor Mike, we love Pastor Mike.
But one of the things that I was talking to this lady today, one of the store managers that donates to our food pantry, and her sister's an addict, and we were chatting about it, and I was just sharing with her, and she said, oh, they moved her just a couple towns up from us. And she goes, when she got out of rehab, she goes, and I'm like, oh, I wish they just moved her away where she didn't know anybody. And I said, the thing is, I said, and I share with her, I was like, people need Jesus. They don't need recovery. I was like, I'm just being real. Because around here, a lot of the recovery programs are you go in, you get dried out, and then you go right back into the same neighborhood that you're in. And I said that people need a radical lifestyle change.
100%.
It's not a program. It's a radical life change. And I love Teen Challenge. I have many friends that are involved. I actually have a young man right now. You can pray for him. I'm going to leave his name anonymous, but you can pray for him. He's currently in the program. And then I'm praying that it's going to save his life because he was on a trajectory of death. That's what he was on. But most people, the reason they get stuck in that cycle is that they don't know that God is for them.
Right.
Not against them. They think he's some sort of big guy in the sky who's like, but they do want to avoid, all they're thinking about is the accountability, not thinking about, I think of accountability as being a safety net. And that's what it is. It's a safety net. So when I trip up and fall, I have someone that's going to say, hey, all right, let me help you up.
Mhm.
And now let's try to avoid falling down again. It's really
Right.
it's really more about the protection because he
Mhm,
loves
mhm,
you than about the constraints of accountability. When you tell a kid, "Don't touch the hot stove," it's not
mhm.
because you're trying to deny them the joy of touching a hot stove. It's because touching the hot stove will hurt, and that's what accountability is. So you went to Teen Challenge for how long?
I was there for almost 10 months there
Wow.
in that program, and, the God is for you, is something that I knew nothing about. I didn't understand what that means, and he showed me what that means, and he's continues to show me what that means. He started to work things out in my life, right?
Right.
And, he started to reveal things about me that I didn't even know existed, okay? And he started to reveal things about himself that I didn't know were a thing that he could do, um, and or a thing that he would do, more is a better way to put it, things that he would do for somebody like myself.
Right.
Why would you do that for me when I am such an awful person? All the things that I've done. And he starts to reveal this word forgiveness to me, and how I can understand what that means and what it means to be forgiven and how to forgive. Because forgiving myself for the things of my past was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do in my life. But he brought me through that. He didn't just leave me there in some desolate place to figure it out on my own. He walked with me through that, you know, um, through different people and through his word and through prayer time and communion with him, and it's truly changed my life, and continues to change my life. And being in Teen Challenge, when I sought after him, I said to him, I don't care what it means or what I've got to do to not be this person that I've become anymore. Just take it from me and I'll do it. I gave up everything. I didn't, even if it meant I didn't have to play music anymore. It meant that never to be out amongst a crowd anymore. I just gave everything about me, everything of myself to him right at his feet. And there was a lot of tears. There was a lot of banging the ground and a lot of prayer. And he worked that out in me, and he still is. And the opportunity for music came through Teen Challenge, and what the vision for One King Worship came from the Lord at Teen Challenge. So they didn't have a worship team at Teen Challenge in Maine, and they asked me, because I was singing in a choir and doing really well through that, and they asked me if I would lead worship for their chapel sessions during the week. And I prayed about that, and the Lord revealed to me that that's something that I could do for him, for his ministry. I said to her, bring the stuff. She brought my guitar, she brought the PA, the speakers and the mic, and I led worship with some backing tracks and my guitar, just singing and just praising Jesus
So
in
that
that
brings
place.
up a good question, Gina. What were you doing? What was your role in this road of recovery?
I had to learn that. So House of Hope and Phyllis Phelps,
Yes,
I'm
yes,
sure.
yes.
This was before that house was open. She was in the process of opening the house, and I called her one day and said, I just dropped my husband off, and the last year of my life has been walking on eggshells trying to keep my husband alive.
Yeah.
So my relationship with Christ is not there. That's been, my life for the last year. And I had just rededicated my life when he went forward. So I was pretty fresh as it was. And just asked her, can you help me out? Do you have a book or something you can recommend? And instead she said, come see me. And she completely took me under her wing and mentored me for the next year. And so she pretty much discipled me for the next year and helped me learn what that role would be, helped me to, have complete faith through it all. And he was extremely faithful. I had complete peace the whole time he was there. I had no doubt that he was gonna be successful. Where most people, would live with anxiety and fear.
Yeah.
That, I mean, many people, relapse and have struggles, and it takes several times. And
It's actually more common. I think it's like 5 or 6 times before someone will stick.
right, and I had complete peace the whole time. I mean, there were, obviously financial struggles and all that, and I had zero worries through it all. I was just at complete peace through the whole thing. And
Amazing.
so, yeah, we owe a lot to Phyllis and House of Hope, and they're one of our favorite ministries to help out because of it.
Right. And again, the authority of people, Pastor Dave Berman from CLF in our church, he was right there with me, right there, helping me, mentoring me even after I got out, and is still, we love our church. We love our pastor. He's just an amazing man of God, and an amazing man in my life, that has always been there to help me and tell me the truth when I need to hear it, and I'm so grateful for that.
I think a big part of whatever it is, whether it's, drugs or alcohol, or just like I have someone in my life right now who is going through a divorce from an addict, and they're just trying to, for their own safety, they needed to separate from the person, and just trying to relearn life. And I think that, our friend, we were talking, I'm going to pick on her because I chatted with her today, Jean Davis, in Branches, We Do Life Together. And I think it's such an important part that so often, because of the shame that comes with sin, we think I got to figure it out on my own. And it's just me and God. And having accountability partners, having just people that you can be transparent with about your life, people that you can be real with about what's going on you, is an aspect of the church that is so needed. Because we live kind of in this facade of perfect Christians, that have everything right. But the reality is we should look more like a MASH hospital. I joke about that, my church sometimes when it lets out, and I love my church, but it looks like an AA meeting just got out, and that's the way the church should look like, is this process where you have people who are on the way other side of things, and they've been steady with the Lord for a long time, and they still have their sin, right? And then you have these new green people that are just coming into faith, or they're not even there yet. They're searching, they're just looking, and they're hungry. But us and how we respond is life and death for some. It's life and death for some. Being able to say, not just, oh, I'll send you a book, Gina, right? Which a lot of, but say, hey, why don't you? I mean, and that's a reality. Is we get this phrase, and it's not mine. I don't even know who said it, but I've adopted, is that people should matter more than our schedule. And that we sometimes saying, once you come over, let's sit down and have a cup of coffee and chit chat, is a life and death situation for some, that they need people in their lives who will just be there.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So you went to Teen Challenge, you graduated, and then you had to find out what life was like after recovery. And that's going to be the hardest transition for so many people. The vulnerable eggshell, where you're no longer in the rigid Teen Challenge schedule, and you're back to home with your wife and your kids and a job and all those things. What did that look like?
Oh, it was definitely scary. And so I left. I didn't graduate Teen Challenge. I left earlier than I was supposed to. I just want to be clear about that.
That's right.
I left sooner than I was supposed to, but I came back, and being home, it was different. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was sitting there in front of Pastor Dave, and I said, I'm really excited to be back, and I'm ready to take on the things that I feel that the Lord has called me to. And I was doing a lot in the Learning Center. I was doing a lot of teaching and a lot of guiding and mentoring at that time. So I said to Pastor Dave, I said, I really feel that I'm going to teach. I really want to teach. I really want to be part of doing like Bible study or mentoring or something. I really want to get into doing something like that. And he looked at me and he's like, yeah, okay. Those are all great things. And he says, however,
you could hear a butt coming, right?
Yeah. He says, however, you're not going to do any of those things. And I just kind of got deflated for a second. I said, okay. He says, you're going to learn how to be a husband to your wife, and a father to your children.
Right.
First, that's it. Those are the only things you're going to do. And he says, as far as the church is concerned, just serve. That's it. I says, yeah. I says, it doesn't matter what it is. I says, if it's just taking out the trash when it needs to be taken, I'll do that. Whatever you tell me to do, I'll do it. And that is part of that submission to authority that I was talking about. God had placed Pastor Dave in my life, and I submitted to his authority in my life. It changed everything, because before I went, I wasn't submitting to that authority, and it almost killed me.
Yeah.
Okay. So now working with Pastor David, doing all of those things, and listening to the sermons, and being in the Word, and learning, and we get this invitation from Phyllis. We get a phone call that says, "Hey, we want you guys to come down to possibly lead worship for the ladies, maybe like once a month or something down. And maybe do like a Bible study or something." I said, "Okay, that sounds good." So maybe we'll do it the same way that I was doing it at Teen Challenge for
Right.
the main guys up there. You join me, you sing some, I'll sing some, we'll do some harmony together, and it'd be awesome. That sounds great. We'll serve House of Hope. We love Phyllis. Absolutely. So we do like 5 or 6 songs, do a little Bible study, and just a quick testimony of my life and everything, and just word of encouragement for them. And it was awesome. We loved it. We thought it was the most amazing thing. We're serving that ministry, and I'm serving in the church, and I'm on the ushers ministry. And Jesus had given me purpose, some purpose in my life. At a job that I was going to every single day, and providing for my home and my family, and my kids were coming around and seeing what was going on in my life, and it was different. I felt good about what was going on, and it was all Jesus. Every single bit of it. It was all Jesus. Everything that happened in my life all the way up to that point, it was all Christ working in my life, from all the way from from overdosing and being found dead on the floor, all the way to that point. It was all Christ, and I was so grateful, and still am. And you fast forward a couple months after that, we're doing the worship. Phyllis goes, "Hey, we're thinking of doing a women's retreat. Would you like to lead worship for the women's retreat?" I was blown away by that. I thought that was the most amazing thing that I've ever done. We've played a lot of different things in my life, but this was to serve God in this way for these ladies. I just was so thrown back and so grateful. And Gina says, "We gotta have a name. What are we going to call ourselves?" Teen Challenge does choirs
Right.
at different church locations to talk about their ministry and help raise funds for the ministry to keep the doors open.
Yep.
And we had done quite a few of those while I was there. And we did one where we had to stay overnight and sleep at the church. And the next morning we did the choir, because it was so far away from the actual location. In Maine, everything is so far away.
Yes. And
in
nothing's
Maine.
close by.
So we got up one morning, and we're having breakfast, and I was telling one of the guys that I was close friends with there, I was like, "I had the coolest dream," and it was so real to me. I never felt anything like it. It was so cool. I had this band with me, and we were on this stage, and it was the biggest worship concert, like one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. And we were just worshiping and praising, and there were all these other Teen Challenge guys there, and one Teen Challenge guy came out and he gave his testimony, and there was an offering taken, and the entire offering went to that Teen Challenge that was there. And on the back of the wall was the name of the group that I was playing, and it was called One King Worship was the name of the band, the name of the group. It was the coolest thing, and I was like, how cool would that be to have this group that just goes around all over the place and just does one state, because there's a Teen Challenge in every state.
Right. Yeah.
We were a concert to raise money for them, and they could have their choir there and do testimony there, and all the money from that will go to them. He goes, "Yeah, man, that would be pretty awesome." And that was the last time we ever talked about it, until that very moment. I'm like, that would be the coolest thing. Here we are.
It's funny how God
All the way
sometimes
to this point.
plant seeds. The name of this podcast, Blooming in a Cage, came to me probably 6 years ago in a bit of arguing with the Lord. I don't know if you've ever done that. I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
Like one.
Yeah.
I did.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I just had that phrase, blooming in a cage, and I just kind of tucked it away. And when the Lord had me spoke to me about this podcast, I wrote down a few names, that were cool and catchy, and I just kept on coming back to that one. I'm like, okay, Lord.
Mhm.
It's funny though that how when we catch on to the vision that God has, it's so much bigger and better than anything that we could. My friend Jim Loomer would say we could have in our imaginator.
Mhm.
It's always bigger and better, and he opens doors that no man can open, and shuts doors no man can shut. and
Mhm.
and I love that even why you couldn't have imagined what God had planned, he had it in motion. um a couple things. I'm looking at the time here. One is, what would you say to somebody whose partner's walking through recovery that they can do for their spouse? I know, deep question, right?
Right. But
Mhm.
for themselves, the biggest thing is their own support system.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing for me, was having the support system. And learning what enabling is. And it is extremely hard not to do it.
Yes.
But definitely learning that balance of not enabling. I had to make sure there was no cash around. Those type of things. There's a lot of different ways that are enabling, and finding out how you can not enable but still, provide the necessities in the home
Right.
at the same time.
And it's really the accountability or support system requires transparency. And I think that that's something that a lot of people, they want to share what's going on. I said to my dad recently, talking about somebody I had encountered that I'm just getting to know. And I said, I don't think I quite know their whole story. Like, they haven't quite yet got to the place where they're willing to share what's really going on in their life. And that's fine. Like the Lord will open their heart as I continue to minister, and we'll get there eventually where I'll go, why don't you be honest? And I think that that's
Yeah.
the thing, is a lot of people, especially with so much shame that comes with addiction, both from the party who is participating and those who are knowing, you walk around feeling the shame of what that person that you love is doing,
Mhm.
and enabling looks very different than what we think it does.
Right.
We think
Yeah.
it's like, here, Scott, take the drugs. And that's not really what enabling
Mhm.
looks like.
Right.
It's, and I think that it's a beautiful thing that God not only restored your life, Scott, but that he restored your marriage.
Mhm.
Um, because so many are not as fortunate. Like I was saying about my friend, so many are addiction is ugly, and it consumes everything.
Sure does.
That's
Mhm.
the word that I use. It consumes everything, and it
Mhm.
is the sole focus. And sadly, I live right in the middle of many, many people. My husband and I were driving down Canal Street this week, and I saw a young lady, and I just said, "Gosh, she looks terrible." Like,
Mhm.
just she looks terrible. She needs
Mhm.
freedom. She needs Jesus. And
Yep.
I love that what you're able to do, especially here in New England. I know you're going to go wherever God takes you, and I pray he takes
Mhm.
you wherever he needs, because we know addiction is not solely in New England, right? It's an
Right.
epidemic in the United States and in the world.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
but I love that you're able to take this story, particularly for me. And part of the reason why I asked you guys to come on is because I work with so many people that are stuck in that addiction and just not knowing that God is for them. But I think the other side of the coin there that you have an opportunity to do is to remind believers that we get to be a big part of recovery for so many people, showing
Mhm.
them the hope of Jesus, that there
Mhm.
is a way out. And
Mhm.
that means perfect Christians being vulnerable with their not so perfect life.
Yep.
That's
100%.
they're not.
If it weren't for people like that helping me, who knows where I'd be? And that's what really One King Worship is all about. It's giving back to those people who are lost and struggling, in those ministries that need to have the help from
Yeah,
people like us
yeah,
to keep the doors open. So what
yep,
we do as a ministry is we set out to help places like House of Hope, Teen
Right.
Challenge. We just finished up a huge campaign for the Transformation Project in Maine.
Beautiful.
We set up campaigns. We normally run a campaign for about 3 months, sometimes a little longer, depending on how large of a campaign, where
Sure.
we spread the word about their ministry and what they're doing and what the Lord's doing through their ministry and in their ministry, and we share their content, we get their stuff out there, but we have merchandise that we sell, that all the proceeds to that go to that particular ministry. And then we have a worship concert
Yeah.
that brings money to that,
And
and
it's such
it
an important part of the recovery process
Mhm.
because I don't know if anybody knows this, but most people that are addicts are not wealthy and don't have the money to go into
They
rehab.
don't. Insurance,
That's,
things like that.
and
So
ministries cost money.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's not a
a
lot,
lot of
actually. It's
money.
not a lot. To sponsor somebody to go to recovery,
Nope.
it's not as much as what,
No.
is
Uh,
what it
There's
is.
a lot of these places that do like $1 a day sponsorship, like
Yeah.
Teen Challenge.
Yeah.
So all the proceeds from our music downloads, our merchandise sales, our concert sales, all of that goes back to keeping these places open. That's what we do at One King Worship.
I love
So
that. I love that.
from House of Hope to Teen Challenge and like the Transformation Project in Maine, we've helped them to raise thousands of dollars to
Beautiful.
help them stay open. And now we've gotten to a place where the Lord has expanded the platform, right, to where we get to tell our story, and of what He's done in our lives. To quite a large crowd at Connect Fest this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna pop this up because we're almost out of time, believe it or not. So
Mm,
one, if somebody's interested in where you are, they can just email you here at One King Worship.
yeah.
Inquiring minds that want to know. I don't
Mhm.
know, probably nobody knows where that's from except for
Mm,
us old people. Inquiring minds want to know.
mm,
And then Fuse Concerts, which is the event that's coming up this coming weekend. I'm gonna
yeah.
pop this poster up here. Just
Yeah.
over in Jaffrey, New Hampshire, which is not far, no matter where you live in New England, Vermont, New Hampshire, it's not bad. And also they have good ice cream in Jaffrey. I just happen to know that.
Mhm.
It's the reason I mostly come to Jaffrey is to
Yeah,
get ice
they
cream.
do. Yeah. So
At Kimball Farm.
Fuse Ministries is absolutely amazing. They're not just a concert series, but they're a ministry. They are so they're about giving back. They're about bringing the brethren together, bringing communities and churches together for fellowship and worship together, and bringing the name of Jesus, and helping people to spread the gospel of Christ. And that's why Connect Fest is so important. Because there's going to be so many people there that just need to be loved, just need to hear the name of Jesus, just need to hear that gospel, need to hear the testimony of the Lord's goodness, and
And
his
plus,
heart
it's a
for the
free
people.
event. I was saying to
Yeah,
Gina earlier, like it's a free event.
yeah,
That's amazing. So grab the kids,
yeah.
and head over. You guys, you can go on to Fuse Connect, and
Hmm.
Connect Jaffrey, and you can order tickets right through there. I'm
Hmm.
assuming you could probably buy them at the venue as well. I'm
Nope.
assuming.
Nope,
You
you gotta.
cannot. You do need to get tickets in
You do need-
advance, but they are
oh,
free. They just ask for a
awesome.
donation.
Mhm.
But they
Awesome.
will not be doing them at the door, so you do need to
Okay.
get them in
All
advance.
right. Well, awesome.
It's fuseconcerts.org/events. You can get the tickets there.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
awesome.
yep.
I love that so much. I appreciate you guys so much coming on. What would you say, Scott, particular to somebody who is thinking about, because I was saying
Mhm.
to my dad just recently took this young man to Teen Challenge, and
Yeah.
it's a nerve-wracking thing to go into recovery, but what would be one thing that you would tell somebody who's thinking about going into a program like House of Hope, which is so needed for women and
Mhm.
children? It's
Yeah.
such a need that, especially here in New England, there's just not
Yeah.
programs like hers. There's just
Mhm.
not.
Yeah.
Or Teen Challenge. What would you say to the person that's thinking about doing that for
Right.
recovery?
So it's about changing your life, and it takes a total change of heart. And the change of heart's going to come through Jesus, and you're not going to be able to do it on your own. Surrender to that, and you won't. Nobody who's done this has ever regretted it.
Yeah.
Okay, surrender to that. Go and give yourself the chance you deserve, the chance that Christ has given you by giving his life on the cross for you.
Amazing.
Just surrender to that. You are worth so much more than the life that you're living. And you'll find that in a relationship with Jesus. It will take it just that little bit, of faith and that little bit of trust, and it'll change your life forever. I'm living proof of it. If I can do it, so can you.
Right.
It's not easy, but it's better. It's so much better. I would do it all again, over and over and over. Lies of the enemy can kill you. Jesus will give you life.
It's actually kind of the whole goal of the enemy, right?
Mhm.
is, is to kill, steal, and destroy. And I
That's
think
right.
that the beautiful thing about ministries like Teen Challenge and House of Hope is it really is teaching you a different way of living.
Mhm.
And I think that as I was talking to this young lady today about her sister, I said, she needs Jesus. I was like, that's what she needs. I said, but what she really needs is to learn a new way of life.
Mhm.
And healing takes time. I think that's the thing that we as human beings, I have arthritis in my knees. I'm
Yeah.
currently going through some treatments to try to be quite honest, to try to put a Band-Aid on it till I'm old enough to
Mhm.
have surgery because they tell me I'm young. I'll take that. But healing takes time. And
Mhm.
we are an instant oatmeal microwave popcorn society.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
want it hot, and we're a McDonald's fast food, French fry, sorry, Diet Coke drinking society that we want everything to be instant, but healing takes time.
Mhm.
It's not something that you can just jump through. And I think that most people quit recovery
Yeah.
or quit healing, whether that's recovery of addiction or emotional trauma, from
Mhm.
physical or sexual abuse or just life in general being hard. You know, growing up poor is trauma that a lot of people don't talk about, that lead
Mhm.
into a lot of things, and it takes time, and it doesn't. I think what I love, part of what you shared, which I've heard so many times, is that you don't come home from a program and life is just perfect.
No. No.
And that's
Nope.
that's a misconception that a lot of people have is, or even when you come to Christ, right? The lie I'm trying to dispel is that we used to get told, right, come to Jesus and everything will be grand. It's not all sunshine and ponies,
Mhm.
when you get saved. It's not. And it's actually not biblical. Actually, he says, take
No.
up your cross daily. Actually,
Mhm.
and the cross is an instrument of death.
Mhm.
It's not a
Right.
pretty jewelry that we
Mhm.
wear. It's an instrument of death. But
Yep.
on the other side of that is new life
Mhm. That's right.
and hope that you can have a life that's different. And that
Mhm.
is right now vital because especially in the area that I live in, it is an epidemic of people who are living without hope, of
Yeah.
just being trapped in a cycle of addiction, of poverty, of domestic violence, all of the things that oftentimes I call them like, they're like the trail mix of addiction, where you get stuck in the cycle of codependency and all
Yeah.
just the list could go on. And
Mhm.
enabling, it's one of those things is, how do I do life differently? And the answer is Jesus, and that's it.
That's it.
That's it. That's it.
Bottom line.
Submitting your life to him fully. And,
Mhm.
like the title of your group, One King Worship, that there's only one king. And at the heart of addiction is myself. It's myself. And I think
Mhm.
that the best way to get out of recovery is to start your focus being on your creator and to start to see the purpose that God has created you for.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys coming on so much
Thank you
tonight
so
and
much
sharing
for
your
having
story. I'm going to pop this back up here. Fuse, Connect, head out this weekend. It's a beautiful Columbus Day weekend coming up, and head over, get your tickets now so they don't leak.
Mhm.
We'll hope they sell out, right? And
That's
there's some
right.
other artists that are going to be playing. Can you tell me about any of the other artists that are going to be playing this weekend?
Yeah, you have Austin French, Colton Dixon's going to be there, Jeremy Rosato's going to be there, and
Awesome.
Jonas Woods and Becky Woods are going to be there as
Oh,
well. Amazing artists. Can't wait to work with these guys and serve with Fuse. Teresa Ferrero's put on such a great event this year. It's going to be awesome.
And one thing that I will say is I was talking to my 20-year-old who plays music and
Mhm.
actually is creating some of his own music and I know he's probably gonna like, Mom, oh my God, I can't believe you told people that someone's gave him a word that he's gonna be creating his own music and he's gonna be
Mhm.
writing and stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things him and I were talking about tonight is like we don't have stuff like this in New England as much as they do all
Mhm.
over the rest of the world.
Oh
So
gosh,
one
yeah.
way we can have more of this is to show up and
Mhm.
support events like this so that
That's
here
right.
in New England we can have opportunity to have artists come to New England to see
Mhm.
what's up. Like to see what's
Right.
up here in New England. And we're praying for revival here at Blooming in a
Sure.
Cage. And I know that it's coming. But first the church has to be awakened for revival to come.
Oh,
Awakening.
you know it.
Revival is for dead people. The church is
Mhm.
not dead. We're just sleeping.
Mhm.
And we need to show up for these kind of events and become awake and get involved in what God is doing in New England and be a part of the body of Christ as a whole.
Mm.
The church is not in four walls. The church is in the streets.
Oh, yes, it
That's
is.
that the church is
Come
in the
on.
streets, and we need to get back into the streets and out of our pews. The pews are where we come to fill up, and events like this is a great event to go up and fill up with Holy Ghost music so that you can go
Mhm.
back out to your everyday life and pour out, which
Mm.
is what we're called to do as the church. And I'm so excited that you guys are part of this event and helping me to promote it so that other people can
Mhm.
go out so we can have more stuff like this in New England. I can remember as a
Amen.
kid, it used to be like we had Christian concerts like everywhere. Like
Mhm.
everywhere. It was like I was a kid where I went to all of them. Mostly Petra with my brother. We went to a lot of Petra concerts, like a lot. We were into rock, okay? My
Yep.
mom had a pretty good chokehold. Sorry, Barbara, if you're listening on the things that God bless her. She kept us. She tried to keep us. I'm sorry, Mom. Confession. She tried. You remember when you used to have to put your cassette tape in, and I'm gonna really age myself here, and wait for the song to come on the top 40
I've done it. Done
so
it.
you could tape it, right?
Yeah.
That was the only way
Yep.
that was the only way I had really cool, gnarly, non-Christian music. Was trying to sneak it past my mom and then
Yeah.
just have this unmarked tape. Sorry, Mom. She's learning all my dark secrets now. She probably already knew. She's got great discernment. She used to leave us verses related to our sin just on the kitchen table. I'm like, how did you know? My dad's trick was to say, "Do you have something to tell me?" And then some of us would just blurp it out, and he would be like, "Great," even though he knew nothing. It was just his way of
Yeah.
baiting us into.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I can't wait to see what's up. I did share the single today, and I know you guys have another one
Awesome.
coming out hopefully soon. So
We do.
we can check it out. You guys are on YouTube there, and there's some other
Thank
places.
you.
Like I appreciate you so much coming on, and I'm going to be
Mhm.
praying for God to enlarge your tent stakes. That's
Thank
what
you
I
so
tell
much.
everybody that because part of the reason I think the Lord keeps on bringing that to me is because if we have people who are believers who are preaching the gospel, and if we start praying for God to enlarge their tent stakes, then we're taking more land.
That's right.
We're taking more land for the gospel. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I can't wait
You as
to hear
well.
about how many people come. I'm sorry I'm not going to be there. I'm up at my camp, got some obligations there this weekend, but I will
Mhm.
be thinking for you and praying for you that the Holy
Thank
Spirit
you so much.
one would be with you. Thank you guys so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
So, guys, that was my guest, One King Worship. You can check them out there. I'm going to keep that Fuse concert. Connect Jaffrey, which is just over in Jaffrey, New Hampshire. Kimball Farm is right over in Jaffrey, New Hampshire. This is a free commercial, but if you want to send me free ice cream, they have great. But let me tell you, order the baby Sunday if you go to Jaffrey, but to Kimball Farms. But head over there, some great lineup. And if you're interested in where you can find other stuff from One King Worship, this is their email, and you can just look them up or send them a message and let them know what's up.